All right, welcome back to the Bumper Breakfast Show. Have with me the Lagos State spokesperson for the APC, Honorable Sheye Oladejo, in the studio this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
And I must say, you look what we, the younger generation, will call dapper. You know?
Oh, really? What does that mean? That's a new one.
It means really smart and very well put together. I like
Thank
the fact
you.
that you're grey, all blends all the way from up to down.
Thank you very much. I take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment. You're meant to oh.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm talking about politics in Lagos. Lagos
Yeah.
has been quite quiet for a while. The last we heard of crises here and there was this issue before before the elections, during the campaign, of the last general elections. It seems you've been able to manage the tide for a while here. How are you doing it? How does that make it?
Yeah, crisis, conflict, disagreements, they are parts of politics. And it's not peculiar to Nigeria. The world over, wherever you have party politics, people are bound to, within the same party, people are bound to disagree based on ideas, ambition, aspiration, and the rest of it. But the bottom line, really, what is important is to be able to manage the crisis whenever it arises. Precisely, it is actually time for governance, time to deliver on the promises made to the people of Lagos in the course of the campaign. It's no longer a time for election campaign. So maybe those who should be busy with making promises are those who are still aspiring.
To get there.
Yes, our party has been a ruling party since the advent of democracy. To remain there, we should deliver on our promises, and that's
Especially
what they're
in
doing,
Lagos.
especially in Lagos.
But now, what is the connect between your party and good governance? And I'm not just limiting this. I know that the people in Lagos, for a while, people had these Otoge, a lot of groups kept coming out, and they just wanted a change. They wanted a shift in power from the ruling party, who still, of course, is in charge of Lagos. How have you been able to deliver good governance to get the people satisfied enough to keep bringing you back?
Well, let me just say, good governance is our DNA. We are synonymous with good
And
governance.
I'll take you up on that, because we're going to the federal level and you're going to talk to me about how good governance is in your DNA.
Yes, it's in our DNA, and oftentimes we want to compare what used to be before the advent of democracy and the way Lagos has been able to move forward in leaps and bounds since the advent of democracy. Like I said earlier, everyone in the same party would not be on the same page, and oftentimes it's based on aspiration.
Isn't there going to be a political ideology or a party ideology that ties you together?
Yeah, oftentimes the party ideology notwithstanding, you are going to disagree on aspirations. That's the way it goes, because if you are really active in politics, there is no politician that doesn't come to a party with some kind of ambition to vie for offices, to seek appointment, and the rest of it. And then those offices are always, because of the almost certainty of our party forming the government, they're always fiercely contested. Otherwise, most of the time, you just have a stamina take up here and there, which we have an internal mechanism to resolve from time to time.
It brings me to the issue of agreeing between an agreement between the aspirations of the person who is vying for the position and the policy of the party. One of the things that is being said is that Nigerian political parties do not share political ideology. They do not have a political ideology. That's why you see that there is difference in the kind of governance being given to the people, state in, state out, even though they belong to the same political party. Is there a tutoring platform for your people? Because I can actually give you examples. The governor of Lagos, different from the governor of Osun, different from the governor of other states in the Federation where you have APC running.
Good. You agree with me that the ideology is notwithstanding, each state has its peculiarities. The peculiar issues in Lagos would not necessarily be the same thing in other APC states. So you need to tailor those ideologies to meet up with the aspirations and desires of the people. That's what makes the difference. So it still makes those states progressive states. Progressive policy is all about meeting the yearning of the people. So as long as they remain the path of delivering on those aspirations and promises during the national campaign, they are still in line as far as government, our party's policies are concerned.
No, before I leave you on party politics and policy making,
Yeah.
Is APC really, really involved in the policy making, or it's just a political angle?
That's not true. That's not true. We're the
Because
ruling
of
party.
politics, or are you really involved in the
We're,
policy?
we're the ruling party. That also behoves that those in government now came from the party.
Yes.
They were nominated from the party.
party.
They believe in the ideals and the
And that's why
ideologies
people
of the
take you
party. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they are there to go into government to implement those policies, those ideologies, those ideals that our party is well known for. And that's why we control majority of popular support from time to time. So we are fully involved in the policies, and you will notice every.
Very contested.
Well, it could be. You will notice that any time the
Because
government,
it depends on what part of the country you're in.
perhaps, you notice any time the government rolls out any policy, the party is always up there to defend those policies, as the government being in line with what we stand for. So that's where it goes.
Now, let's talk about Amotekun, the latest resolved controversy.
The ravaging Amotekun.
The latest, the way I put it, the resolved controversy.
Yeah.
People anticipated it was going to create a lot of issues in the party, as well as, the country at large. But you've been able to manage it. I'll talk about from the party level now. But what's your take on the entire support for Amotekun and how effective it's going to be in Lagos?
Let me even
Lagos
take.
has a case.
Okay, let me take it even beyond party politics. You'll find that there is one odd state out in the southwest, Oyo.
Yeah.
There's not in the progressive family, so to say.
But
You-
he's at the forefront of the...
He's also at the forefront of Amotekun. That shows significantly that everyone in the southwest on the same page. It's very simple. We all feel the threat level. We all feel the insecurity ravaging the land, and things that we used to read in newspapers in the past and watch on TV about some criminal gangs here and there. They are really very close to our doorsteps. They had
Very-
experiences
very
that
true, very
in
true.
Meko recently, Ekiti, and the rest of them, as near as Ogun State. And that really shows that we need to pay very serious attention to our personal
To our personal
securities.
security.
And party differences notwithstanding, the major duty of any responsible government is to see to the welfare and security of lives and properties of the people.
Did you say any responsible government?
Yes, responsible
And
government.
APC, don't forget, is also at the center, and people have been clamoring for the kind of synergy, for the kind of attack that the governors in the southwest seem to have given to this issue of pushing for Amotekun to secure the people at the federal level. How come we don't have that translated?
Well, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't agree with you. If your question were to be, are the security issues still there? Yes, they are. Are they being addressed? Yes. The government is not sitting down just folding their hands.
Doesn't
The,
seem so.
the challenges are
Perception is
enormous.
key here.
The challenges are enormous. You agree with me,
Yes.
but they're being addressed. Even at the level, at the level of legislative arms, everybody drawing support, ensuring that we put this behind us. So challenges will come naturally.
But I
just
dare say that one of the reasons why Amotekun was quick to fly was maybe because the clamor for more action.
yes,
At the level.
Amotekun was a child of necessity. You need you have a
Child of
duty.
necessity.
You have a duty first and foremost for self-protection, and like every other thing, security too, like politics, is local. You want to address those issues. You need to bring in the local content into security, protection of lives and property of the people. If we really localize it, we have a community-based policing, so to say. We'll be able to nip a whole lot of potential threats in the bud. The Amotekun will gather intelligence, share intelligence with the former security apparatus with a view of checking a whole lot of these problems.
Let me take you away from security because this is a very dicey one. When it comes to security, there are different sides to look at it. But since you agree with me that policies, the party itself is involved in the policy making and is quick usually to jump on the policy and defend such policies, what do you make of the newest policy of no bikes, no motorbikes, no tricycles, and the loss of jobs that happen, and people like me who have to do the OTREC thing every day of the week, especially when we can drive.
Did you say no bike? No. That communication is not correct.
No, now, let me put it correctly. No bikes or motorbikes on highways.
Yes.
Some specific local government roads and LCDA roads.
Yes.
And then no tricycles on the same LCDA. For example, this morning I had to trek from LCCI all the way to the office. Why? Because there is no other means of transport. And in the past, there used to be bikes I could jump on a bike and then come this way or come the other way, but get to the office in due time.
You didn't give me a very good example. The SCCI is right behind your studio here.
Are you saying that I have the right to trek at least 500 or
Not necessarily. On a very
I'm already a size 10. I don't want to go lower than size 10.
Okay, a whole lot of people out there watching us would rather be a size 10 than a size 18. But on a very serious note, the Okada restriction and Marwa restriction law is not new. It's a 2012 law. And it's very explicit that the government at this point in time has decided to implement this law to enforce those restrictions. Speaks to the fact that the government tarried to see if the activities of Okada riders could be controlled to the extent that they would not endanger other road users. But as if that was not enough, it now started constituting serious security threat in Lagos State. A whole lot of people getting attacked in traffic. Motorbikes. The recklessness, the menace is peculiar to the two. And they're always involved in very bad accidents. The statistics, the figures are scary. In recent times, over 1,500 accidents, over 700 fatalities, 250 people fatally injured. And those are figures that government was able to capture because they brought them to the hospital. How many more didn't make it to the hospital? And you will find that in a whole number of states, particularly in the north, Kaduna, Kebbi, Kano, Sokoto, Borno, Zamfara, Edo, Rivers, even Abuja.
States who do not have any form of peculiarity with Lagos, apart from Kano, who has almost the same size of population.
The threats remain the same.
Really? But
The threat, yes, the threat level remain the same. And if those states could have a total ban in place, we've had an influx of Okada riders that were banned in those states, even to the extent of having Okada riders from outside Nigeria. People who really have no place they can call their home in Lagos, having implication for well-being and welfare, security of lives and property of Lagosians. And you find Okada riders who leave their homes in the morning with dagger in one pocket and a shotgun in the other. No responsible government will just sit back and let a mishap happen. And you also recall that the former governor, Batunde Fashola, said in 2013, Lagos was going to be bombed, and it was actually intercepted. When you look at all these threat levels, and I'm not privy to the weight of the information available at the government level, even as at now, that made Lagos State government clamp down on Okada riders. It is not true people have been thrown into unemployment. That's not correct. We have partial restrictions. The Okada riders who must ride Okada for a living have only been restricted not to operate in certain local governments. They still have the likes of Mushin, Alimosho, Ifakojayi, Hagege, and the rest of them.
Palliatives is the problem here. If you take an opinion poll, Lagosians almost agree that with all of your points. But palliatives, you have people who are graduates, who are semi-graduates, secondary school, university, polytechnic graduates, who have families whose only means of livelihood. I took my time to do a 2-week statistics taking of these people. They're calling on the show on radio, calling on TV, and majority of the people calling. You know, the people that we really want to get rid of are not people who were calling on a show like this. Now, majority of the people who called were people who have families, who have children, who have to pay school fees. But suddenly, when you find 25 bikes, plying a road, that's what the restriction does. Plying a road that is only, only meets about 10 bikes. Because there are no passengers even for the 10. And now you now have 25, you have 250 running to these areas. What you have done is to put more pressure on them. Now, a lot of people are jobless. A lot of people are actually, that's the truth, except the government wants to pretend not to know. A lot of legitimate residents of Lagos are actually jobless. I know people who used to carry me. They have been calling me for stipends. These are boys that will say, Auntie, let me buy you gala. Now they beg me for stipends. Means they're not making money enough.
Okay,
And
good
then
enough.
tricycles.
You need to balance your statistics against the reality of security threats in the state.
Exactly.
I
We
agree.
security.
Yes, I agree with
But
you to
what
the
are the
extent.
palliatives to make sure that this
Okay, now those
jobless?
palliatives. Shortly after the restriction, the Lagos State government rolled out about 60 high-capacity buses.
And
That
for
is not
something
enough.
that they don't ply the allow cycle.
That-
I've not met any.
That
I'm
is
still trekking.
no. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know because I know you have a private car, so you wouldn't know. You're only listening to hearsay. But
Really? I trek.
by and large,
entire
by and
week I
large,
trek
by,
to
by and large, you need to juxtapose all this information available to you to what would have happened if Lagos had gone up in flame. We're talking about trekking. Nobody will really trek. Nobody will really be talking about job loss in that kind of situation. It's only in this part of the world that we don't seem to take issues burden on security seriously. In November last year, the body overseeing public transportation in London, Transport for London, refused to renew the operational license of Uber, thereby throwing 50,000 Uber drivers into the employment market. And what reason did they give? Threat to safety, security of lives and property. London City didn't go up in flame. It was enough for the people to know that their safety was being threatened. If we were to choose between loss of jobs and welfare of the people, if the competition would be
And the people
between
who
that,
are just not part of the people whose welfare we're trying to take care of. Is there a difference?
this loss of job, government is even offering to assist. I don't know if you're aware of that. Through the various poverty alleviation programs of government, they still have those local governments. The local governments that we don't have partial restrictions are actually local governments where Okada is really a major means of transportation. Are you telling me it's safe to ply Okada on 3rd Mainland Bridge and all those highways?
Should I respond?
I'm sure you'll not even be able to trek if there's a serious opera in the state. And that is very, very important to the government.
Security first,
Security first. That's the way it has to be.
before the welfare.
That's the way it has to be.
All right, I'm trying to get your position on certain.
That's my position.
Issues. That's your position on this. Now, when it comes to some of the policies of the government, Raji Fasholah's administration,
Yes.
that are being revived now.
Yeah.
Like ferry is one of them.
Yeah.
The 60+ buses.
Yes.
released,
500 buses more ordered will be on the road pretty soon.
I hope they're smaller buses.
They have
Because
smaller
we-
buses.
Because we do not have the bigger routes for the bigger buses. I find it difficult to understand.
All the
60
issues
buses
are being addressed, but we need to
at
stay
the same
safe.
time.
We need
But
to stay safe. Yes,
now.
and there
So
must be
Lagosians
law
apparently
and
people are
order.
going to just agree and enjoy this for a while. The government is working on palliatives.
I can assure you that the government is not insensitive to the issues.
Exactly, and that's
The government is not
why
insensitive to the issues, and that's why everything is being done. Look, the challenges will remain for just a while. It will soon become a thing of the past. I can assure you. All those issues are being addressed at the highest level of government, and in no distant future, we'll forget we even had all kind of issues in the state.
I must use this platform to, first of all, appreciate the government of Mr. Governor, who has been doing a lot of inner roads and fixing,
Yeah.
resurfacing some of these roads.
Yeah.
I've seen quite a lot. I was one of the people who kept talking about it. We had a community report and we kept talking.
I'm glad you saw that.
And of course, we do acknowledge good work.
Thank you.
And we've been on it, and we've been celebrating him as he's fixing the road. So Jokoro, Mikosi, Sherry, and a lot of
Too
other
numerous to mention.
so too numerous to mention. He's been doing quite a lot of work.
Yeah.
But the preparation for the rainy day. There was the first rain last night, overnight till this morning in Lagos. The preparation for the rainy day. Now we've been resurfacing roads. I've not seen drainages being fixed.
Naturally, they are being cleared. I've seen drainages being cleared. I've seen canals being cleared.
What would you say?
Or-
What would you say is our level of preparedness for flooding, which of course has been globally mentioned, will be worse.
The standard practice really is to use the dry season to clear the canals, to clear the drainages, to address issues that could lead to potential flood during the rainy season. And the Ministry of Environment, I'm aware, has been doing a whole lot of that. And actually clearing those drainages will also give some longevity to those roads that are being fixed. So the Lagos State government is addressing all of these issues in preparation for the rainy days. Yeah.
Now, APC has had quite a number of scuffle from state to state, particularly the case in Point Edo is one that is almost on fire right now. But Lagos, there are whispers in the air that because of the minor reshuffling that happened in the cabinet of Mr. Governor, all is not well with the state school. Is there any truth?
If you have a minor reshuffling in MITV and you are asked to move to the sports desk, does that suggest any management issue? Sometimes there may be punishment. But at the level of government, I've been there. It could be Mr. Governor feeling that he needed to move certain people around to achieve maximum productivity. It doesn't speak to any issue of rift in governance. Very far from it. That's not to our knowledge. And our party in Lagos has a reputation to be very peaceful.
I like that part. You have the reputation to be very peaceful. What about the other states where there are issues? Is there anything the party can do to make sure? Because it speaks to the image of the party. Usually, Lagos is the model state. I totally agree with you. Lagos is like a model state.
Yeah, it is.
Working here, they want to adopt it.
Yeah.
But why not adopt the peace? Especially because Lagos made APC popular. So
Thank you.
every other state should want to toe the line.
Let me just say this. Like I said earlier, conflict resolution is part of party politics. The recent President Donald Trump impeachment issue, you found people in the Republican Party and daggers drawn with him.
Yes.
That should not be unexpected. But on a more serious note, you are aware that the APC at national level set up a reconciliation committee headed by an elder statesman, Chief Bisi Akonde, the former interim chairman of APC, former governor of Osun State, a whole lot of experience, is a well-respected statesman. And interestingly, all the parties have agreed to work with that reconciliation committee.
All the parties respect him.
All the parties respect him. So that has given some beacon of hope that all these issues will be resolved.
Let me take you a little bit into some of the issues in Lagos. So talking about politics and democracy, a vibrant opposition, taking the case in point you mentioned, Donald Trump, the Republicans and Democrats, they are on his neck. In fact, they are in his hearings. They really are buzz in his ear. So he has a vibrant opposition, which as much as he may pretend not to care, he really has to on most cases. Now, in Lagos, it's being said that Lagos has been a one-party state since the advent of democracy in 1999. Would you say that we're practicing true democracy? Yeah.
Well, since 1999...
Let me not give you the allegation that the ruling party is intentionally killing the opposition here in Lagos to ensure that...
No, that would be a business allegation.
Okay, so
if the opposition is not vibrant, do you blame the ruling party for that? If the opposition doesn't have the reputation to provide a vibrant opposition, do you blame the ruling party for doing so well that people don't tend to even pay attention to the opposition? If the opposition is such that the party only has a semblance of life every 4 years when there's an election to share election booties and they return to their tent thereafter, do you blame the opposition for the ruling party for that? The truth of the matter is the opposition needs to get its act together and put
you are totally comfortable with the fact that Lagos has been...
No, not necessarily. A vibrant opposition too is an essential part of a thriving democracy. I agree with that to that extent. But if the opposition, for reasons best known to them, bordering on not meaning well for the people, bordering on dirty politics, we are not to blame for that. So we just wish to be able to...
But competition, competition, healthy competition, rivalry gives you, keeps you on your toes.
I agree.
And I think would even help you deliver more.
I agree. Provided the opposition, provided the opposition would be able to get their hearts together and provide such opposition. You can see the total disarray. I describe the major opposition parties, so to say, to be on last support machine. Let's hope they survive.
Let me take you this last one before I let you go. I know that it's time and I did promise to let you go early enough. The preparation of Lagos. Lagos was in the forefront of killing the spread of Ebola. Lagos during the time of Governor Raji Fashola, was able to kill that and make it work. Now we're talking about coronavirus, and it's been discovered in Lagos. The Lagos State government has reached out to the federal government, and they're trying to do everything possible to keep us. What would you say is our level of preparedness, first as a nation, and then coming back to Lagos State?
Let me make my comments. Yes, let me make my comment based on the Lagos experience. I was part of Governor Raji Fashola's cabinet when we had the Ebola crisis, and I can just tell you that the government was not really at a standstill then, but it was the priorities was on the front burner. At every state executive council meeting, it was feedback on our preparation, on what the team of professionals set up to handle the situation, and it became the template the world over. The commissioner for health that headed that team made presentations at various fora the world over, giving the Lagos template. It became a thing of pride for us. I can assure you, with the requisite institutional experience available to Lagos, Lagos has been able to put in place everything that will be needed to curtail the spread, so to say, and to quarantine and put everything in place to make sure that there is no spread. And I believe the Lagos State government will still want to leverage on the experience of those who handled the Ebola episode and people who are presently present in to make sure that we don't get embarrassed, so to say.
Now, when it comes to the federal government's preparation, we happen to, Lagos happens to be at the center. A lot of people come into Lagos, more people come into Lagos from outside the country than in Abuja.
Yes.
How can we ensure that we nip this in the bud? Because one of the worst parts of this, preparation so far has been that the focus was on China. People coming in from China, not people coming in from all the countries.
There have been reported cases in other countries too, maybe not as much as China.
Helped us to spread the net.
I think the first...
This person would have been caught at the airport.
Yeah, the first place to really checkmate this would be at the points of entry. Point of entry, doing necessary checks. Things as much as in some countries, they give you forms to fill. Where have you been to before you got here? And things like that. Do necessary checks, routine checks, temperature, and the rest of it. I think we need to intensify that so that right from the point of entry, we could really bring under control whoever is a suspect, so to say. We don't necessarily test. And I believe it also has to do with the number of days when the thing is supposed to manifest. If it tests positive, such a person could be released. So the emphasis should be really checking at the point of entry so that you don't get all the points of entry. Land, sea, air, all the points of entry. That will go a long way to help. Seriously, too.
Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pleasure having you. And I hope that by the time we begin to roll out some of policies, we can have you back here to fire you on some of these. Since you said you're going to be defending it, the party jumps on.
Be rest assured, I'll always be available.
That was just on a light note.
Thank you.
We'll take another break now. When we come back this time around, we're talking to the people, and today is all about you. And you get to tell me exactly what is happening to you around Lagos. And of course, we get to share that with the government. We'll be back.